It is what it sounds like, that your default stance, psychological stance to a new situation is optimism, but you're paranoid. Apparently, it originally comes from vintners, like their vineyards, their vineyards. The grapes are doing well, but there could be frost. And at the moment, we're all waiting for an inauguration. We're in a sort of a liminal state with all these. That was a partial list of world problems you read out. There are a few more. Uh,
Sorry, Carol.
and
Bad news for you.
Yeah, I know. It's a big
yeah,
list.
no, it gets worse and worse. But we're optimistic because there is a president to whom I've not always been kind, but he deserves optimism. He's proud of his unpredictability. He promises to be mind-bogglingly unorthodox in his approach to anything. I mean, like buying Greenland and Panama Canal back and who knows what. And so that could lead to breakthroughs. On the other hand, these problems are complicated and interconnected. There are feedback loops. He may not understand that. They have a dynamic of their own. So we also need to be paranoid. And that's a sort of stance of early 2025.
Andreas, I think about the U.S.-Chinese relationship, something that we have spent a lot of time talking about in the last couple of years, and really going back to the first Trump White House. Having said that, we used to be like, listen, these two need each other. So in the end, maybe it's a lot of big talk, harsh talk, although we have seen actual actions, if you will. But I do wonder, whether or not some of it could eventually lead to something more dramatic and dangerous.
Very much so. So at the moment, what I'd say, Trump is in a sort of Muhammad Ali trash talk phase, if you know what I mean. And the Chinese have to answer that. There are enormous tensions, Taiwan Strait, South China Sea, and then many other things. But I would say, most importantly, the nuclear arms race and the sliding gradual formation of a new axis, anti-American, anti-Western axis of China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. Now, as you just said, this could get really ugly if the two giants in this constellation don't come together and talk. However, if they do talk, there's almost no problem that they couldn't solve or begin to solve together. Again, the arms race, they could agree that this is unsustainable, the nuclear arms race, I mean, and come to an agreement. And then, because Xi Jinping has leverage over Moscow and Pyongyang and even Tehran, and Trump says he's a negotiating genius anyway and loves Putin, so then they could bring him in that same way. And they've already demonstrated some progress on fentanyl, the leading killer of Americans. Mm-hmm. When America and China were at odds, because a lot of these chemicals are produced in China, more and more Americans were dying of fentanyl. Then Joe Biden and Xi Jinping got together and said, let's do something. This is low-hanging fruit. We should cooperate to build trust. And China has started doing something. And for that reason and others, fentanyl deaths are still high, but plummeting. In that same way, we could approach other problems, eventually even climate change. And Trump could look very good, but he needs Xi Jinping to solve anything from the Korean Peninsula to the South China Sea to Ukraine and the Middle East probably, and other things.